Welcome everyone. This is my Heroes series, and I've got Damien from Newcastle Meals on Wheels today. How are you, Damien?
Oh, great. Thank you. Really well.
Wow. So to start with, do you want to just tell about your story? And maybe if you want to weave in Meals on Wheels as well, how did you end up working there? What are you doing?
Oh, look, getting to Meals on Wheels was a long and convoluted journey for me. I've done a lot of different work over the years. I worked in hospitality before I finished school, and I did that for many years, managing restaurants and bars and cafes, and working front of house and back of house. So amazing experiences there. Whilst I was at uni, I ended up getting a little bit of work in a childcare centre. So I spent a number of years working in childcare as well. Which was an amazing experience. Great way to learn how to parent or learn some basic skills from amazing people that are in that industry. After that, I moved into some labouring work, and I had a little landscaping and gardening business for a period of time. And then when my first child came along, it was time for a little bit more consistent and reliable work that wasn't weather dependent. So I started working in the disability industry. I got a little bit of a job helping and supporting people in the early days of the NDIS, which was amazing because there was a lot of freedom in the work that we did. And it was really the beginning of, well, not the beginning of, it was a really big surge in client focus in that sort of work. And from there, I worked in disability for quite a while, and I worked in a housing program, and I was just nearing the end of the project that I was working on and was looking around for jobs, and a Meals on Wheels job came up. And because I'd had friends and acquaintances that had been involved in the Meals on Wheels movement, it just made sense. And I went for the job, got it, and I've been here for about 5 years now.
Wow. And tell us about, so who is Meals on Wheels? What are they doing? Maybe some people never heard of them in, in our audience. What is the mission? What are they doing?
Well, look, Meals on Wheels came out of the end of the Second World War. After the Blitz in Britain, there were people that helped to feed and support vulnerable people that couldn't access food. And that's kind of the real start of Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels started in Australia with an incredible lady in Adelaide, a woman living with disability in a wheelchair, who started out a food service for elderly people within her church. And I guess the easiest way to understand the journey of Meals on Wheels in Australia is that it is a volunteer-run organisation. All of the strength and the power comes from the volunteers. They have always driven the provision and delivery of food and social support to elderly Australians, especially isolated ones and those in need. It was done for a long time, mainly through the churches, essentially. And over time, there's been an evolution of the way that system and service works, which has moved us further towards government funding and donations, as we've always had. And here we are today, the longest surviving volunteer organisation in Australia. An amazing movement that has a footprint across pretty much the entire country. We produce our own food in some places, we deliver other food, and we really focus on social support and connection for people in the community, especially elderly people who may be isolated.
This is powerful. What a story. I didn't know that you are the eldest company out there doing this amazing mission. And tell me, so who are the usual clients? Are they elderly people, or what would be, like, who should reach out to you if they are in need, and what sort of help would they want to seek from you?
Look, these days, as an organisation, we're evolving and expanding. And the answer to that question today is anyone who's in need of a little bit of social contact and connection, anyone who's especially in need of food, and anyone who's looking for a bit of meaning and purpose, because part of what we do is we're a volunteer organisation, so we're always welcoming and eager to get volunteers into our midst. Our traditional client is an elderly person, 70, maybe 75 and above. As we get to the stages of life where we need a little bit more support, we may need a bit more support in everyday activities. So we have an expanding reach these days. NDIS clients, also some of our new clients that are becoming a part of our organizational reach, which is a really positive thing, because there are benefits both in the sphere of being a volunteer, but also in the sphere of being able to be supported with food at home.
And what a journey that you're giving to people. So would you say after the pandemic, like this is the absolute life rope that is thrown to some people who had maybe lost family members and they've been isolated? Would this be the new era of a new revolution?
Look, in some ways, yeah, it's brought a focus onto what it is to be isolated. You know, there was a huge effect on the community going through lockdowns and feeling those concerns and fears about being out in public, and it was a greater impact for people who were elderly. We certainly had an increase of business during the heavy days of the pandemic. A big part of being Meals on Wheels meant that there wasn't a day that went by that we didn't continue doing our service. That's something that I know that many of our staff and volunteers are really proud of, the fact that there was nothing that stopped them during that period of time. And that's where our mission is focused. There is no option to not feed people and to not get to people. So it's the pandemic's impact, less of a change for the way we work in the future, but more of there was a real reminder, and there was, I think the community got a good understanding, we ourselves, of how important the work is that we do and how much we need to be able to continue to do that work. Yeah.
You have an absolute group of heroes. So they, in the midst of pandemic, the fear, the anxiety, they went out about their job and they delivered those connections and food every day.
Absolutely. It wasn't, so we didn't contingency plan for what if we can't deliver meals. Our contingency plans were always, how do we make sure we deliver meals, which was fun. It was really good to have that outlook, and it made us feel like we were in a different space of contemplating and accepting the realities of the COVID situation that the community went through.
So what you have in mind, maybe one or two stories out of the pandemic that really stood out for you?
Look, one story that, well, look, a simple little thing is how we dealt with the difficulty in the early stages of being shut down. So we had one of our branches shut down, but within half an hour or an hour, we had more food being delivered to another spot. We had other volunteers staying back to automatically go out and deliver to that back to that other suburb to make sure that everyone got their food, all in a context of anxiety, concern, worry. In those early days, we didn't know how the disease traveled, and we really didn't truly understand how dangerous it was or was not to different people. The other story that I would tell is probably about the guys in my kitchen. A little further down the track, we ended up losing nearly everyone in the kitchen to COVID. Losing meaning they were down for a week or so, but in those weeks or so, we continue. We cook 10,000 meals a week that go out not just to the Newcastle region, but also to other places in the Hunter Valley. And there were two staff members, the two most senior ones in the kitchen space, and they just did all the work themselves. And then some of the rest of us would jump in a car and, or a truck and do the deliveries. Everybody without question just jumped in and did whatever needed to be done, which was a really nice thing, because we live in a modern world of litigation and employment laws and rules and set hours and workplace health and safety, and all those things were considered and concerned for during this period of time. But it was without thinking that everybody just jumped in and got in and did what they needed to do, which was a really nice feeling of team to be a part of.
What a spirit of contribution. And looking at the business itself now, or where you are, I heard you're servicing Hunter Valley. I'm guessing a wider region of Newcastle. What do you need? like if someone's watching this video, then tell us, what resources do you need to maybe create a bigger impact or multiply the contribution of this wonderful organization?
From the broader community, we always need volunteers. We need people to bring their unique skill sets, and we need volunteers from younger and younger generations. I mean, we now live in a society where we all work. Back when Meals and Wheels was starting out, in a lot of ways, it was mainly run by women, because there were less women working in those days. And so that was, well, working. Clearly they were working, and they were running Meals and Wheels and doing amazing work in the community, but they're not being paid to do that work. Now the onus of volunteer energy falls on all of us at a business level, understanding that we need to have businesses out there that are willing to give of their time and energy and their staff's time and energy to support that corporate level of volunteering. But also our younger generations, finding ways to integrate with schools, which we do to some degree, and with younger people in the community, and being able to get them involved and engaged in volunteering. But aside from that, we also need charity. We need philanthropy. We need people to be willing to donate to the cause, to what we do, because our mission is not as narrow as it used to be. It used to be just focused on food and feeding the elderly, but as time moves forward and we find ourselves being a non-profit organisation, a charity that can find more and more ways to support people in the community, we expand our field of concern. So that charity and that support's really important to us. It costs a lot of money to replace the kitchen equipment that we use to cook the food. We don't make profit like a profit organisation selling food does, so that we can replace those capital necessities. So we do need support from the community and from businesses alike to be able to especially replace those assets.
Amazing. I never got to think about that. You're actually running this non-profit, and I thought things are just available when you need it. I'm guessing, you get some of government funding. So what's the next big jump, Damien? Now looking at, say, 5-10 years ahead, like, where do you see the impact, the organization, the purpose, the team?
Look, it's a good question. The first thing I would say is that the reason Meals and Wheels is still here, started in 1963 in Newcastle, the reason we're still here is because we've always adapted and changed. We've been able to. It hasn't been easy. We've lost friends, made friends, but our ability to adapt and change is the thing that makes us, or that gives us the opportunity to survive and to still be here. So we have to continue to do that. So for us these days, that's about modernizing, and it's about reassuring ourselves in our understanding of our identity. Are we a delivery network? Are we a cooking network? Are we a network? Are we just an individual set of branches? Are we localized? Or are we looking at being, a more homogenized being across the entire state? So they're all really big questions. We believe we have what our local answers are and that matter to us, but understanding that identity, involving that, and modernizing the way that we work, that's a really important part of what the future holds. The other side is in adapting to a modern context, I think one of the things that we've got to do is recognize that there's a lot more competition for us out there. I mean, you cannot hide from the fact that aged care is a growth market. We have a lot of people who we have an aging population, and that means that there is a market for serving that aging population. At the same time, I think we need to exist in that market and look around at what is considered normally our competition and understand that a little bit better, because are we really competing for market share? Yeah, indeed we are. But is that really the purpose of what we're doing? Are we trying to provide a service to people in the community? So for me, it's about looking at our competition and working better with them. Not seeing them on the opposite side of the field, but seeing how we can be cooperative to work together to serve what is our mission and our intent, regardless if the competition that we might be working with, their mission is to serve a shareholder. Well, at the end, we're still feeding the same people and supporting the same people. So I'm looking for ways of forming new partnerships. I'm looking for ways of working with our competition, and I'm looking for ways for us to modernize what we do so that we can keep up and we can stay in the game, so to speak. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we are still staying true to what we really are, which is people that will knock on your door, who'll discover if you've had a fall and you've been lying there for 24 hours, or people who will just be there to say hello, and have a conversation with someone who for the last day and a half hasn't had a single visit from another person.
Yeah, I've been wondering while you were telling me all of this, how do you limit that connection? Because of course you need to deliver a certain amount of meals, and how are you able to standardize this kind of service where you have, well, you deliver the meal, you connect, but then some people are really keen to connect with others. Then is there a clock running? How do you do this?
According to food safety rules, there is a clock running. However, we don't live with that, on our hearts and make that an area of conversation. I think what you'll find is that the individuals, the volunteers, this is what's magic about them. The people who deliver this service and do this, they have a way, they have an art to carrying out the service and support. The drivers that get out there in the community and go and see their clients, they know them. I used to go with a gentleman in Merriweather, an amazing man who was 92 years old when he stopped delivering food to other people. And I'd go out with him, and he knew how to look after the people that he was looking after. He had a connection and relationship. He'd buy a newspaper the day before, only so that he could give it to one of the clients that he would see later in that run the next day. There was one place where he would stop and cheekily he would pick up the wife of the gentleman there and drop her at the bowling club, and he would have some time to himself and she would have some time to herself, and he formed a part of their regular village-like community. So I think the limitation comes from the natural delivery of that service that people do. We do have boring policies and procedures that are really important and that we train our volunteers on to help them to understand the boundaries and limitations that they need to implement. And then I think we have an existing traditional culture that guides the way we approach this work. And everyone brings their own sort of way to it. Some people get in and get out and do the service, but other people stick around for a long time. I've been on runs where you end up at the end of the run with a bunch of chocos, a whole lot of empty egg cartons for the friends of yours that have got hens, and are giving eggs to other people, and who knows what else.
Yeah, what a powerful and giving service that you have. And you're looking back, my topic is normally about self-worth, stepping into power. Would you be able to share maybe a story when you personally felt lack of confidence, lack of self-worth, and that actually had to change in your life?
Yeah, look, in a previous job, in a leadership role that I had, there are always complexities in dealing with staff issues and staff challenges and staff concerns. And it's an interesting thing. As a leader, sometimes you have to deliver news that people don't want to hear, or you have to guide people. You have to tell them they're wrong. Sometimes you might be even ending their employment. And these are really difficult things to do. I think I discovered in my last role and in this role that if you don't have a strong sense of self-worth that gives you faith in what you are doing and why you are doing it, it can be very difficult to deliver on the needs of your staff. And I certainly had challenges with my own self-worth. I'm a human being. I have been through good experiences and bad experiences in my life, and they shape me and the sort of person that I am. And inevitably, part of that is going to be an effect on how strong or weak my self-worth is in certain situations. That's certainly the reality for me. And I noticed that the hardest thing for me to do was to essentially call staff on where they may be going wrong. And it was really interesting when I came to a full understanding and realization that that was a form of letting down the staff. Not telling them where they're going wrong means that I'm not helping them to understand what they need to be doing. And if you leave someone on the wrong path, they'll end up in the wrong place. And I kind of came to a realization that if I wasn't going to be strong in those moments, then I would be leaving them to end up in the wrong place.
It's very powerful. And again, we're bringing back every topic to human connection out on the field, authentic human relationships in an organization.
Yeah.
That would then create amazing results. Is there anything else that you want to share? Maybe where do they find you? And of course, we will put every detail under this video, but if you want to share a phone number, if you want to share a website, then please tell us how to find you and how to get in touch.
Well, so you don't have to write anything down. I'm just going to say, jump on a website or jump on Facebook or even Instagram and type in Meals and Wheels in the search space. You will be instantly connected to what is your local Meals and Wheels. And to be honest, that's the key. Meals and Wheels is a service. If you can imagine, we're all joined by association. We're not under one particular banner. We might use similar branding or the same branding, but realistically, we're a bunch of individuals with similar mission and similar outlook and similar approach, and we're joined by an idea. And that's a cool thing for me, because there's not lots of those ideas left in our communities. So jump on to whatever your social media preference is, or the internet, and type in Meals and Wheels, and you'll find an access point for what is local to you, and there'll be something that you can do. Best way to go about it, and I love it when I get a conversation like this. Sometimes I'll walk past the main phone and have a chat to someone, and if it's a volunteer or a client, it'll be a great conversation. Ask whoever you speak to, what can I do? What do you need? Tell them what you've got. Tell them what you do. Tell them what you can offer. If you're a teacher in a high school, either with a food-related class or a business-related class, then find out how we can work together, and how there can be a contribution that is shared in both ways. And don't forget, I mean, especially for the younger people coming along, one of the best things about the work that I do is I work with mainly my elders. So most of the volunteers are older than me. So they've all been here longer than me. So there is always something that I can learn from them, or an experience that can engage me and teach me something. So yeah, look, just reach out in the simplest way. Wherever you search, the key with Meals and Wheels is find your local space and act locally.
Damien, it was amazing to have this conversation, and I'm hoping that you find this message reaching more and more people and wider audience in your region, and of course nationwide. And who knows, one day it may go international. I don't even know whether that was part of the plan. Is there any last thoughts or golden nuggets that you want to share before we finish?
Look, the only last thought is because this interview is with you, Andrea, I would just recommend to all people that they don't be afraid to look within yourself, to evolve and to change and to challenge yourself to be a little bit better than you were the day before, because you might be doing a great job, but there's always a pathway to do an even better job, and it might involve challenging yourself and facing things about yourself that you don't love and would be glad to change, and then you're on a great path.
Well, amazing, Damien. Thank you very much. We'll share all the details under the video. Keep going, change the world and contribute. Thank you.
Thank you.